The entire world was built by unreasonable people.
We've never seen this in the history of the planet. Dude, the equivalent of the heroes of old, Hercules, Achilles, Leonidas, take your pick of ancient hero, right? They've never sat down with a common or peasant and explained to them why they're worse at everything. But here we see it. This part of the interview was absolutely crazy because Andrew Tate gets asked by failed Californian liberal soy boy why men should be impressive and basically why men should strive for greatness. Andrew Tate's answer is so compendious and eloquent that only an absolute monkey, can I say monkey on YouTube? With his haircut, this guy looks like a monkey. Only a complete animal would not be able to understand Andrew Tate's answer. But even after having explained to him basically the essence of masculinity, this guy fails to grasp it. And this comes after Andrew Tate already explained what he's doing, what his mission is with the real world, where he's basically making cryptocurrency tokens to reward men for going to the gym and posting their results in the real world. Because those tokens that men can earn as a result of their physical fitness, and presumably other accolades that they earn through real life accomplishments, will afford them a small piece of ownership in the real world, which is not only practically more valuable than every other terrible, worthless coin out there, but it's also backing a self-evidently good cause. Nobody can argue that rewarding, unless you're, I don't know, a radical feminist with curly hair, aging well past the wall, single and childless, then you might really despise masculinity because the patriarchy's the reason why you own 17 cats. But if you're not that woman, it's self-evident that men improving themselves is a good thing. And yet this guy's still too dense. Check it out.
X amount of reward. But I guess my question is, what is the reward? Like, what is the best case scenario?
That's asking what the reward is for this cryptocurrency project, which Tate just explained.
That's a better question. That's a better phrase.
If I didn't re-ask it the first time, go ahead.
You know, I often wonder.
Okay.
You're born on the fields of Mongolia somewhere amongst the wheat. And
bro, this is majestic. Listen to the way Andrew Tate actually responds to this, and I'm being completely serious. This is, in my opinion, close to a Jordan Peterson level of explaining a concept. It's the same way the greatest speakers throughout history would explain concepts, with stories or parables. You tell a brief story to teach a lesson. Listen to this.
You're born on the fields of Mongolia somewhere amongst the wheat, and you learn to ride a horse, and you drink milk from the yak, and you learn how to fight, and you become a good archer, and then you put your group together and decide to fuck with the people near you, and you start conquering lands. Then what you do is your daughters, you marry them off to the leaders of these foreign lands, so they become like part of your family. So you integrate them. So you go to the kings that you conquer and say, you can stay king, but you'll marry my daughter, and you're the king, but I'm the real king, and you'll obey me. And you get a larger and larger empire by horseback.
Does anyone know who he's talking about right now?
And
is he just making this up, or is it a real story?
You get a larger and larger empire by horseback, and you ransack places very far.
That's a clue. Horseback.
Far away, like Iraq. And with this huge empire, I wonder what makes you want to still try and siege a city like Vienna, because Vienna in Austria is extremely far from Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, but you're just Genghis Khan, aren't you? So you have all the land you could possibly ever have. You'll never see all the lands that you own.
Why do men strive for greatness when they've already achieved the dream of the average person to make, let's say, a couple $1 million, retire, whatever, sit on a beach, whatever? I don't know what the average person dreams of, but it'd be like your average day-to-day Joe Schmo going up to Elon Musk and saying, why are you doing what you're doing? And then not only asking him the question, but trying to convince him not to do what he's doing, because anything other than mediocrity judges brutally the incompetence and relative patheticness of the person who is unexceptional. But I think even worse, it reminds them something about themselves that they try to forget, which is that as an individual, they hold ultimate responsibility for shaping the future of the world. This guy who Andrew Tate's talking to, he's some crypto geek. According to his own statements, hasn't even made a few $1 million in cryptocurrency. Never before, and the reason why this is interesting, guys, is because never before in all of human history have we seen an average commoner being able to ask basically a emperor or a king, which Andrew Tate is the modern version of that. Elon Musk is the modern version of an emperor or king. If you don't realize that, I'm speaking archetypally, so you need to just increase your IQ. Never before have we seen a commoner peasant being able to ask somebody of that echelon a question like that until recently. There was that scene in the movie Troy where Achilles gets asked by the random boy who hands him his helmet, why are you going off to fight? And Achilles says, the reason you're asking that question is the reason no one will remember your name. But that's fictional. We don't know if that actually happened. Here you see a complete liberal coward who admits to being a coward, who took the vaccine, who isn't practiced in standing up for the truth because that's too hard, asking Andrew Tate, Why are you willing to take slings and arrows to stand up for the truth against the forces of darkness? The modern world is so interesting, dude. We get to see complete losers, literal losers, interact with the biggest winners the planet has ever seen.
And you've heard a message which has taken 4 months to come to you by horseback, that you've reached a city called Vienna in Austria, and it's a walled city, and the Christians are going to try and defend it, and hundreds of thousands of men are going to die if you try to siege it. And you still say, fuck it, I want it.
Bro, that's an epic story because it's literally true. Bro, the world has been a brutal place for most of its history, and people forget we're living in a civilized world where, it's not legal to just pick up a sword and go take things from people. But the genetic makeup of men has not changed. And so there are still warlords that were born, meant to be warlords, but couldn't become warlords. And so what do? They became people like Andrew Tate. They became people like Elon Musk. They became people like Jeff Bezos. Maybe the raw aggression in terms of fighting wasn't rewarded in the same way, but the raw ambition these men had and were born with definitely is rewarded. And so you're looking with essentially one of those modern warlords sitting across from a complete and utter freak, a beta, trying to get him to understand why he was born such a failure in comparison to him.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Well, why? That's exactly the question.
Dude, he's not asking that in some sort of philosophical sense. He's asking that because he literally still doesn't understand. Because men were born to be conquerors. Because men were meant to create the world by taking on voluntary responsibility.
You're talking about the code in the matrix because you're talking about the crypto coin. You're talking about the court case. You're talking about the target on my head and all these things. It's a much deeper question than that. Why do some men do what they do? Why did Elon decide to put rockets in space instead of just retire? He was rich after PayPal. Why?
Yeah, that's fair.
Why did Alexander the Great need all that land? Why did men go to the Antarctic to try and cross the icy, barren, empty plains and freeze?
Why did men create the entire world? Why did they undergo suffering in order to build empires? Why did Rockefeller create the biggest monopoly on oil the world had ever seen? Why did Carnegie amass a steel empire? Why did Vanderbilt build the railroads? Because what else would they do? Be like this guy? You can see where the resentment of the left can take hold here, where if you go down the wrong path, you very quickly start to resent men that are much more impressive than you. And this is, I would say, accounting for about 75% of the hate that Andrew Tate receives. Most of it comes from deranged freak show leftists who are losers in every category of life when you compare their lives to Andrew Tate. And so they just can't stand it because they've been so practiced in exercising resentment on the world via Marxism, which tells them in order to be oppressed, you're a good person, therefore you should just be resentful of any person that is doing better than you. The other 25% of the Andrew Tate hate, I think, is just self-loathing and jealousy. People that openly want to be like Andrew Tate, but have decided that rather than striving for greatness or improving themselves, they're just going to try to tear someone else down. And then we have the truly stupid people, the people that are too low IQ to understand anything that's going on around them at any time.
To death to just be the first men who did it. Why do that? You can't even put it on Facebook back then. Who gives a shit?
Right, because it speaks to the core of masculinity.
Men are built different, sir. Some men want to do it because it hasn't been done.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is the reason why. They do not need much more motivation than the fact they will be first. There isn't much motivation to get on a rocket and be the first man on the moon because the probability is you're going to die or get stuck up there and never make it back.
Right. It's not rational. It's not something a woman would do. It's not comfortable. In a sense, though, it is rational if you just have a more complete view of the world because those actions are what drove us forward.
The fact that you will say to me, but it puts a target on your head, shows me
that you think like a woman, essentially.
That God will never, ever give you my position of influence because along the way...
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you'll throw away any possibility you have. You'll shoot yourself in the foot rather than achieve even 1/4 of what Tate has achieved.
You will have so many chances to be a pussy, which you will take, which will prevent you from ever getting to my echelon of capability and influence and power. Because if I gave a fuck about having a target on my head at all, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So I don't care. I'm doing it because it must be done.
Bro, what is wrong with this guy's haircut? And is he wearing a cross earring? This guy is admitted to being a degenerate. Why do all the complete degenerates of LA always wear crosses? Like, you're not a Christian, dude. So cringe. That's the reason why I don't wear, like, jewelry with crosses on it. Completely disgusting.
To you is that there's a lot of things that you could do first. Doesn't necessarily make it right. Like, you could be, like, the first person to kill 40 people in a presidential suite of a hotel room. It doesn't, like, make it right.
Bro, this guy's brain is completely damaged and broken. This is, okay, We can write that up to the degeneracy of California and the complete godlessness of it, the demonic nature of this part of the world that I live in. It's completely nuts. When I walk outside, I can tell that this is a very godless part of the world. But just the fact that that's in his head and that he would say something like that is ridiculous. But after Andrew Tate just said everything that he said, explaining to him why men do what they do, it's one of the lowest IQ responses I've ever heard.
First and right doesn't necessarily correlate.
Okay, but launching a crypto coin which is based on dignity and honor
and improving men's lives and rewarding them for improving their lives.
I think it's pretty difficult.
It's antithetical to what he just said.
To draw parallels.
Well, there's a weird analogy. There's a weird analogy. Okay,
I mean,
put me on the fucking spot.
Being a school
dude.
I think that's a difficult analogy to draw. I mean, certain things. I mean,
it's just going to get more delusional here. That's the thing, though. Pay attention.
Well,
but here's my question, I guess.
But walking across Antarctica, no one's done it. So
here's
you
the
get
question,
to explore,
though.
Right?
Is like,
Andrew Tate's still confused why this guy doesn't understand what he's saying.
There have been influential people that.
At this point, 80% of the audience know. More like 90% of the audience understands completely what Andrew Tate is saying because they were able to follow along that explanation. But this guy manifests his total intellectual depravity repeatedly instead. And that's kind of interesting to see.
That have launched crypto coins and they've gone well. You're not the first person to do that. Okay. So the question is like, what? Like, I understand, okay, I'm doing it because I can, but there's a lot of things that you can do that you maybe don't necessarily do.
That wasn't the argument. Doing something because you can isn't what he was saying. He was talking about conquest.
So I'm just curious, like, I don't know. I'm just sort of like.
I would like to do a poll.
Okay, what's the poll?
Underneath this video.
Okay.
Am I making sense? Does nobody understand me?
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I just tried to explain.
You're making sense.
Let me start again. You're born on the fields of Mongolia, amongst the wheat.
Dude, the reason this is good is because it's essentially punishing him for being stupid. He's saying, you're so dull. Your IQ is so low. You didn't understand what I just said. And so just like Putin in that interview, I'm going to repeat myself until you either understand or accept what I'm saying on your own criteria of something like brainless, unsubstantiated power disparities. That's sort of the way Marxists like to engage in trading ideas, is who has more power, who is more of a victim, which makes them more of a good person, which therefore affords them more power.
You learn to ride a horse. You learn to fight. Get your guys together. You go and start to conquer the lands near you. What you do is you marry your daughters off to the kings.
Andrew Tate's telling the same story, basically saying, yeah, if you're going to be obstinate and try to get a disagreement for no reason to get clips, I'll just repeat myself to prove that you are stupid.
You go there and say, you get to still be king, but you're going to marry my daughter, so you're part of my family, and I'm the real king.
So what's the psychology behind why Genghis Khan did it? Like, why does he want it?
So he accepts there that he lost that attempt at some sort of low IQ obfuscation. What a complete freak, dude. You would not find any... Dude, what is he wearing? What is on him? What are those shoes? You would not find a freak like this in anywhere but California. With bracelets, rings, bro. Actually beyond cringe.
Okay, so now you're asking me. But perhaps this is a philosophical question which is too large even for the top G. Maybe some men are just built different. Perhaps the entire world we live in was built by the unreasonable. Because men like you, who are scared of the target on their back and want to be reasonable, and who are scared and thinking, oh, maybe it's not worth it.
It's so cool to see him say this to his face because they both know that Tate is superior to him in every way and could physically dominate him. So he can literally say this to his face and he can't do anything about it. If Tate walks out, then this will be the biggest failure of his entire life, and this is what he'll be remembered for. There's literally nothing he can do in this moment.
Like you, and there's nothing wrong with people like you, but there's men like you and there's men like me. Men like you don't think, let's build the taller building. Let's sail the 7 seas. Let's explore the unseen land. Let's go conquer that tribe over there. But they're fierce. There's a target on our heads. They might kill us. They've never lost a war. Yeah, but we're built different. So we're going to go fight them anyway. The entire world was built by unreasonable people.
We've never seen this in the history of the planet. Dude, the equivalent of the heroes of old, Hercules, Achilles, Leonidas, take your pick of ancient hero, right? They've never sat down with a common or peasant and explained to them why they're worse at everything. But here we see it.
People, the roads you drove here on, and this nice hotel we're in was...
It is nice.
Oh, there you go. It was built by unreasonable people. Satoshi Nakamoto himself. Was he a reasonable person? Did he sit and go, we have Swift transfer and it's fine? Or do you think, you know what, this is a different paradigm. Why would I invent Bitcoin? Because I can. I see an opportunity. It could be done. It would change things. Everything you enjoy about the modern world comes from that exact imperative, which is born inside.
By the way, I want to say that really freakish thing he said about, well, what if you just attacked everyone in this room because no one else has done that before? shows that in the depraved mind of the aimless leftist, there's no way to differentiate between ideals. And that's really something Jordan Peterson has talked about a lot. He's had lectures on that. But the human condition requires you aiming for something and striving for something. And even if you don't think you have to strive for something, you are putting something at the top of your conceptual hierarchy to aim for. It could be something that's not good for you. It could be something that's nihilistic and not propelling you to a good place. But everyone has something that they're striving for. For leftists, it's ultimate resentment for objective reality and coherent frameworks, something like that, and the undying resentment of virtue itself. But when you claim, like most people in California, that everything is subjective and there are no goals that are better and worse than other goals, then you end up like this guy who is confused that at why it's better to build a beautiful hotel that's a successful business than mow down a bunch of innocent people in a room. That was a Freudian admission that he just did there. But it's because these people who are freaks who have been told to demonize anything that is objective, including the categories of better and worse, so that they don't step into their true masculine selves, they end up like this. This is who they are. They are destroyed with bad haircuts, wearing crosses while literally purporting degeneracy and admitting to lying.
Of the masculine realm. That's what men do. Now, Satoshi had to disappear because they put a target on his head. But this is the only reason we're having a conversation in the first place. This is how the world works, right? Genghis Khan got a target on his head, no doubt about that. That's the way the world is. So if you're going to sit and say, why would you take risk to push a boundary because it puts a target on your head and there's risk? Well, then why did Christopher Columbus get on a boat? I don't know. You tell me. Maybe he should have just sat at home with his money, getting blowjobs, having butt sex, and have kids. Don't take any risks. Don't put a target on your head.
Dude, this guy's a complete degenerate.
Why do that? You could just have butt sex and stay home. He had plenty of money for butt sex. You could have got endless butt sex slaves and just had butt sex like you do in LA. You could have sat around having a degenerate hedonistic life and nobody would fucking remember his name. Or perhaps he thought, fuck it. I'm going to risk my life and do something different. The target on my head doesn't cross my mind. I don't care because God's already decided what's going to happen to me. And I am simply one of his servants doing the best thing I can possibly do, which is doing my best to restore honor and faithfulness to a decaying society inside of a failing Western empire. So
what a complete loser.
So if I can financially incentivize young men to work hard, I believe God will favor me for doing that. And if I pay the...
Why is that not the same as mowing down 40 innocent people? Leftists are mentally broken, dude. Mentally broken.
Price for doing that here in the physical realm and end up in a jail cell. I believe the karma...
It's nuts, dude. It's completely nuts. We have to get accountability back for these insane, delusional, narcissistic psychopaths in November. I just realized how ridiculous it is that we have like the pinnacle of human achievement explaining why men strive for greatness to the embodiment of a complete degenerate loser who hates reality. This is one of Andrew Tate's better interviews, but it's because the contrast between these two humans is extraordinary.
Retributions are worth it. So I don't give a fuck. That is why. And if you don't understand that reasoning, then you don't also understand why Genghis Khan, worshiping whoever he worshipped, decided to set Vienna on fire. That's what some men just do.
Do you think you're going to go back to jail?
I've never thought about that.
Okay.
Which may sound strange to people.
Really?
Considering I'm in the middle of a court case. But I don't think it matters.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Because once you're on the side of what's right, that's all that matters. But it makes sense that would be this coward's first question of, but what are the consequences of being a brave person? Oh my gosh, I live my life for immediate gratification. Guys, be sure to subscribe to the channel. This was very interesting.